Hello, and welcome back to the podcast known as the Pod of Many Things. I'm Addison, your resident friendly furbog wizard, taking the lead for this week, and as always, I'm joined by my favourite half-orc bard, Leon.
Good morning, good evening, good night.
And well, for now anyway, just Leon, as you can hear. That actually brings us nicely into our topic for this week, which is changes. As you can hear, it's just me and Leon this week on the podcast, and there is a bit of a half-elf shaped hole that is felt quite heavily, and because of that, it's good to know that we're still going, but unfortunately Troy will not be part of the podcast for the foreseeable. There was no issues or drama or anything. He just couldn't commit to the podcast at this moment in time, but I'm sure that you agree, Leon, that when I say as soon as Troy feels able to, he can come back, he can, and he's more than welcome to. Yeah?
Listen, man, you don't need to cover for Troy's alcohol and drug problems.
But no.
That's a joke. That is a joke.
That is a joke. But no, seriously, we're muddling through this, and there has been a bit of change. We've been trying lots of different things, haven't we, Leon, for trying to get the podcast still running, just the two of us, considering Troy did all the technical stuff.
Yes, I had to learn how to edit, which was fun. So this very edit that you're listening to was done by me. So let me know what you think.
Mm-hmm. And I've been trying to work with OBS and recording software and video editing software. To varying degrees of success, but we'll talk about that at another time. So as we've been trying to adjust to our new normal, with Troy being gone and his side of the operations being split between the two of us, this has led to us taking some time off and thinking about what we want to do, and we've thought about some changes, haven't we, Leon, that we need to make in order to bridge the gap with his loss of with the loss of his skills.
Yeah,
so,
we've got a few things that we want to change. We've got a whole list I'm sure you're about to go through.
Yeah, so I'm quite excited and nervous to see how it goes, Leon, not gonna lie. So what do you think has been the biggest changes we've needed to implement in order to keep the podcast going? What do you think are the biggest changes, and what changes do you want to see in the future of the podcast now that for now it's just the two of us?
Well, the biggest change is me doing the audio, editing that. It's been good. You know, the original idea was for me to edit it way back in the beginning when we had the concept for this podcast. And Troy came on board, and then I didn't need to do it. Troy took that over. But now that I'm taking it over, I've had to learn new skills, which has been fantastic. Always love learning new things. I think that's going to probably be the biggest thing for me, because, never underestimate your audio editor, because, they have to sit there and listen back through this hour-plus long audio file, several times to make sure it sounds good before we put it out. So yeah, I like I said earlier, I am really eager to hear what people think of the editing on this. It's not going to be perfect, but it is going to be adequately good.
Yeah, I think you showed me some prototype stuff that you've been doing, and until certain points where it wasn't really your fault, there was nothing really you could do with the audio. It sounded good until those points, so I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, we should probably say what you're talking about. We recorded a whole episode.
Oh yeah.
Which is probably about 2 hours long, and because we're doing this online, there's some lag in Wi-Fi and internet connections here and there. It was just so difficult to edit. There were huge gaps where somebody would skip ahead, somebody would fall behind by 5-6 seconds at a time, and then it got halfway through the podcast and everything just it was like each audio track exploded and it just went all over the place. So we had to scrap that entire episode, which from a recording perspective, that was probably the best recording we've ever done, so it's such a shame. But this whole thing, that was only episode 4. This whole thing's been a learning process anyway, so it's just part of learning. It's just part of it.
I think that's the fact that we're going to re-record that, and we're looking at getting guests now, because obviously it's just the two of us and we don't always want it to just be the two of us. One of the things that we're thinking of implementing in the future is guests. I've asked a couple of people about whether they would like to. I know you've asked people as well if they'd like to jump in.
Yeah, we're going to get Alex on. If anybody's been listening to the past 3 episodes, Alex is the guy I keep talking about. So we'll definitely get him on at some point. He said yeah, we just need to figure out a date. Yeah, I'm excited to bring him on. He's the guy that got me into D&D. How about yourself? Who are you thinking of bringing on?
I was thinking of Sumi, who I worked on her Rolling in the Den podcast. I was thinking
Sumi's lovely.
And Ben from the Flickering Torch or from the Loom, Ben Sterland. I've heard he's quite good at like social encounters, and we were going to do an episode about that, weren't we? So I think he might be a good guest for that episode in particular. Definitely.
Awesome.
We were thinking of doing some overlays, like some streamers do when they have like talk shows where they have like an overlay and the 3 different cameras and like materials up on the screen. But unfortunately, I do not have the skills with OBS to pull that off yet, or my computer is not good enough to do it, because we've tried to do it and it's not quite worked. But hopefully we'll get there.
We'll get there. And everything's learning. All of this is a learning process. We'll get there.
And then, Leon, you mentioned new side content. You wanted to do other things as well. You shot me a message as we were brainstorming. Like, give us an example of something.
Yeah, well, we put this podcast out on YouTube initially. It's also on what else is it on? What's that website? Podbean, thank you. We started off putting it on YouTube. We put it on, and then we put it on Podbean. But it's like we have this YouTube channel. We're looking at doing a video podcast. Why don't we branch out and do some more content? So we're looking at doing some, talking head style videos. D&D news videos. Tier lists, which was Addison's idea. Just branching out. It's early days. We're going to try a few things. We're going to see what sticks. See what we enjoy doing, and hopefully find us and enjoy what we're doing, and we can keep doing this kind of stuff and keep trying out new things. Podcast is fun, don't get me wrong, but doing something like this, as somebody who's been watching people doing this on YouTube for years, it's like this is actually a lot more fun than I thought it would be. So why the fuck not?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but I also think that because those people have been doing it for years, and like the streamers that I watch do podcasts and stuff, and those talk shows have been doing it for years, they make it look easy. And then we've went and done it, and then I think I'm not afraid to admit that I think I undersold like the effort we would need to put in and stuff like that. Like, oh god, we told Troy a lot that we would share out the work, but then the minute he couldn't commit anymore, we suddenly, I don't know about you, but I felt like, oh my god, I didn't realize how much Troy was actually doing. Like, so. Well,
for example, the script. Before this episode, I was doing the scripts, and it would probably take me half an hour to type out the script, and then I'd run it by Addison, see what his thoughts were, see if he has any changes. So maybe an hour at most on the script, and that's pretty much it. But then you think, this podcast will get edited down to between 90 and 120 minutes. That's probably going to be 4 hours worth of work doing that. You really take that for granted. I mean, really good editing, it sounds like the podcast has been done in one sitting.
It's continuous. Like, there's no none of those like jarring smash cuts of audio when we've had like an error or anything like that. It's been seamless. Troy's made a really good flowing, continuous, seamless podcast edit, and now we're trying to do the same thing without his level of skill, I feel, which is just difficult, but I think we can manage it. You're doing all right with Audacity. I've got Resolve on the go. We'll see how it goes, I guess.
Yeah, what we've also done, we've committed to one specific day every week. In the past, it was harder to do that, but every Thursday we're going to be recording something, whether it's the podcast or a new piece of content. Thursdays we're going to do those. I'll probably edit it Saturday with the idea of putting it out possibly Monday, but that's where we're at so far. We'll get there.
I think we'll get there. So those are the changes. Yeah, that's the changes we've made. But Leon, we're not the only ones who've had massive changes thrown our way in our absence during this COVID period. during everything. There have actually been 2 new products, one released in a very different way. That is a change from the normal in Feros, and one that has been announced that is trying to do something different in terms of adventuring, and I'd like to get your opinions on that. And then there has also been just a massive surge of almost protest against like the tabletop RPG business side, like Wizards of the Coast. Paizo have been actively beseeched by their customers to change things, so I think it would be a good idea to like go through that and talk about those changes as that goes with our episodes. So they've released things like new content in terms of also the Legends of Runeterra setting, which is a crossover between League of Legends and Wizards of the Coast, which opens the door for a lot of things. So what did you think about the Feros digital release, like being staggered and the delay of the physical hard copy?
Yeah, this is actually something we talked about in detail when we recorded the episode, the lost episode, episode 4. We recorded that before the book came out, and we had a lot of speculation regarding what might be in the book. But now the book's come out. Well, it's come out online. I have pre-ordered the physical book. I prefer the physical book. I'm not going to buy the online stuff. Not because I dislike it. It's just because I prefer to have things on my shelf. I prefer having the physical book in my hand. If you want to buy it online,
you like a
more
collection.
Power to you. Yeah, I like a collection. If you want to buy the online one, more power to you. You do you, I'll do me. But the book itself, from what I've seen, and I've only watched YouTube videos on it, I think it looks pretty fantastic. I think it looks like it might be my favorite setting. Where do we begin on this? Shall we start with the new races? We got the Satyr and the
Yeah,
Leonin.
because I think the Satyr especially has also opened a change in the player character race dynamic because
Addison, the Satyr is absolutely ridiculous.
I know it's ridiculous.
It's now the best race in all of D&D.
Oh, don't get me started.
2 words: magic resistance.
Well, not even just magic resistance. The fact that and this is what I meant by the fact that it's changed like the paradigm of player races. It's no longer humanoid. A Satyr is no longer a humanoid. It is a Fae.
It wasn't the first one to do that. I believe the Centaur is Fae as well.
I will check that. But like the fact
I'll check that now while you talk.
But with the fact that not only does that therefore make any spell that says person in the title now ineffective, or any spell that specifies humanoids,
Centaur is also Fae.
Okay. It now, it's because I've never played Centaur because I find them ridiculous. Now they have magic resistance on top of that, so there are spells that are literally ineffective. You cannot use them against a Satyr, and then they've also got magic resistance with spells that affect them. So that's like me and my wife. Even my wife was there, and you've met Jenny. She's not as into D&D as say me and you, but she likes it. But even she went, "That's ridiculous." So yeah.
I'm wondering if it's a misprint, and it'll probably be fixed in the errata. Why, if you're a bard or a rogue or
you're not taking anything that's not safe.
Why would you take anything else? And I'm torn on this. Okay, as a DM, I don't limit official races. You know, if it's official, I don't care what book it's in. You know, if you want to play Warforged in the Forgotten Realms, go for it. I don't care. But this raises a conundrum for me. Magic resistance, I can deal with the Fae. But magic resistance just seems a little bit too much, you know?
Yeah, totally. I get that, and yeah, and then when you compare it to the Leonin, so and the only reason I say this is because the Leonin was released with the Satyr. The Leonin then becomes, it looks cool, but mechanically is very underwhelming in terms of because it's been released next to the Satyr. I think if it was released in any other book and next to any other thing, the Leonin would be okay. You'd be like, oh no, I could get behind that. But because it was released next to the Satyr, you're just there like kind of like, yeah, nah, like I'll leave that. Like,
yeah,
it's so. I feel as though that shake up in terms of the Sata race, because the Sata has divided the community like down the middle as well. Just like you're torn, the community's torn about it as well. So it would be interesting to see, because people have been begging for a Sata race, but then they got it, and everybody's a bit now like, oh, I don't know. They feel a bit. It feels a bit like they're worried.
Like one of the things that I think is important to me as a DM is the players themselves feeling that they are of a similar level of power, which is why I always use standard array, which is why I use milestones, so everybody else is like on a level playing field. But if somebody has magic resistance and the rest of the party doesn't have that, that's the thing I don't like about it.
Yeah,
personally.
I suppose somebody would argue like the gnome gets it as well. But the thing is with the gnome is they don't have spells that they are straight up immune to because of their creature type, if that makes sense.
Yes,
gnome,
yes, it's the combination of both of these, absolutely.
Yeah. So apart from that, like you said, it looks really good. That ancient Grecian mythic setting, the athlete background, the two subclasses are very nice looking. I quite like the look of the paladin. What was you're the paladin fan? What did you think about the Oath of Glory?
Can you remind me what's in the Oath of Glory? Because, like I said, I haven't bought it and I can't remember what's in it. Probably should have taken some notes before we started recording this. Oh well.
Yeah. So the Oath of Glory, it's fine. So we look at the Oath of Glory. You've got immortality and legend. Find any victory. Remember your origins. So you've got battle charge as an action as a channel divinity. You've got impede monster. So basically, with your channel divinity, you can stop a monster. It has to be a beast, dragon, giant, or monstrosity. If it fails a Constitution saving throw, it becomes exhausted. If it's hostile towards you, if it's not hostile towards you, it causes it to fall asleep. Battle charge. Choose any number of creatures that you can see or hear you. Up to your charisma modifier, each creature you choose can use its reaction to move up to half its speed and make a single melee attack. So you basically coordination. I feel is this one is which is quite nice.
Yeah, I like the sound of it. I'd be interested to play it or watch somebody else play it.
Yeah. And then there's like Herculean Volley, Glorious Might. It seems very, very good. And then
it's the what's the capstone? Not that anybody's ever going to play level 20, but what's the capstone for it?
The capstone for it is level Golden Paragon. At 20th level, you may reap the journeys and become an obstacle to all others on the battlefield. You may use your action to assume the form of an unstoppable true hero, gaining the following benefits. So you go Hercules glowy mode, basically. You go glow stick Hercules. You have immunity to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. You gain the siege trait. Yeah.
Is that all, or is it just non-magical?
All bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage.
Oh wow, that's pretty sweet.
You ignore, but this only lasts a minute.
That's 10 rounds of combat, baby.
Yeah, you ignore all non-magical difficult terrain. You have advantage on strength ability checks and saving throws. Once you've used this feature, you cannot aft again until you finish a long rest. Yeah, that's pretty.
Not bad.
It's not bad, and like at that level 20, because your tanks, your paladin is a tank most of the time. It's good to have that just there, like ready to go. The other class that was in it was, let me have a look.
Oh, it was the Bard, the College of Eloquence.
College of Eloquence was already good as an Arcana. So basically, you can just talk to anything. It's the basic thing, isn't it? You can talk to anything. You can make it do as you want. Everybody can understand you. You tell stories of people's bravery. I think it's a very interesting book. I'm definitely going to buy it. I want to get your take on the release of it, though. Do you think that, how they've delayed the physical release and the digital releases earlier? Do you think that's going to be a common practice from now on, or do you think that's just?
I doubt it. I think it's just with COVID. I think it's just it's just down to that. I don't actually know where the books come from. Are they shipped or are they manufactured in the UK?
I think they're shipped.
Yeah, because
From
that's
what I
going to
can
cause
tell.
some issues. And then you're going to have staff. That I would imagine they probably would have had issues with staff not being able to work and them having to shut down their factory. And when they opened back up, they probably had a skeleton workforce and yada 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 yada. All those issues that COVID has caused. I imagine that's the only reason. I would assume by the time the next book comes out, everything will be back to being released at the same time.
Fair enough. So the next thing that I come to is Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, which is being described as D&D's foray into isolation horror. Me and my friends have been calling it D&D Cross the Thing because it's very much that frozen wasteland setting. What are you thinking about that? What's been your idea about that?
I'm okay. How should I put this? When I saw the title for Waterdeep Dragon Heist, instantly excited. Instantly, I need that book. Now I'm going to go online. I'm going to pre-order it. The next official module was Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus.
Yeah.
Just based on the name alone, I need that book. I want to get it.
Yeah.
This module for this September release, it doesn't instantly excite me. I have been, reading the reports and the theories and watching the D&D Beyond videos and interviews with Chris. Is it Chris Perkins?
Chris Perkins, yeah.
The interviews he's done on it. Yeah, and I'm intrigued. I'm not that excited yet. There's room to be excited from what I've heard. The way they've described it, it's kind of like another. It's kind of similar layout to Curse of Strahd, where you have this huge open sandbox area. There's a horror theme, and you can go about and do, the main storyline of the campaign in whatever way you want, which is really close to Curse of Strahd. That bit does excite me. Just the setting, the ice setting. I don't know much about Icewind Dale. I don't know much about the Frost Maiden. I'll look into it some more. Maybe if I look into it some more, it'll excite me. But the last two have excited me just based on name alone. How about yourself?
I also feel like it came out at a time when actually probably not the best time, because straight after Theros, which everybody's been very, very excited for and been gearing up for, to release something so removed from Theros, because Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus have like a loose link between them. Whereas I feel as though there's nothing linking Theros to this module, so the excitement for Theros can't carry over to this module.
Well, that's not typically how it works, is it? I mean, that you usually have like the April release, which is with the past couple of years you've had Ravnica, you've had Eberron, and then in September you have the official module release. So they've been basically continuing that pattern. The release earlier in the year is typically not really linked at all to the one that's released in September.
But do you not think that that's something that, if you want to capitalize on hype and you want to, do you not think that's a business model they should be maybe looking towards? Like making it a bit more.
I don't know. I don't know what the numbers are like for how they've been doing it so far, but it's worked well for them for the past 3 years. The only time there really was a time, they had Xanathar's Guide, they had Mordenkainen's Tame of Foes, they had Volos, they had the Stormcoast Adventurer's Guide. They've kind of stopped doing those ones and they've gone more towards doing these additional settings. They started with Eberron, and now the past 2 settings they've done have been more Magic the Gathering. What I am hoping is they stop doing the Magic the Gathering tie-ins, because despite my hype for Theros, I just think there's more interesting settings that you could do, such as Spelljammer.
Yeah.
I don't think the early release needs to explicitly be tied to the later release, because each of them are their own annual thing. Just one happens early in the year annually, and what happens later in the year annually. Don't have a problem with that. I'm just really hoping they stop the Magic the Gathering tie-ins.
Well, speaking of like the the thing of Magic the Gathering tie-ins and like those crossovers, they did release like a small, it was very small, but a very small like free module that crossed over with League of Legends, and a lot of people have been getting excited about it. It's called Legends of Runeterra Dark Tides of Bilgewater. Now Bilgewater, for those of you who don't know League of Legends, is like the pirate area, very much magical pirate area. And it would actually fit well into a setting of D&D, because it is this like almost like Tortuga-esque, Saltmarsh-esque area.
Yeah, I was going to say Saltmarsh. You could probably tie that in with a full Saltmarsh campaign.
And it brought in some interesting.
It's free, you said?
Yeah, it's free. And it brings in some interesting things like the rogue card shark or something like that, who can use like magical cards, who's based on the League of Legends character Twisted Fate. You've got gun users, which is a fighter archetype, and then there is a almost like barbarian archetype that's about being this creature that lives in the depths, is used to tanking damage because they're used to the insane pressure, and they can crowd control. Basically, they can throw out something and pull them towards the enemy, or pull the enemy towards you. But a lot of
when was this released? I completely missed this. I'm learning about it now.
It was about 2 weeks ago, I think. I only knew because of the fact that I love, despite certain things, but I love League of Legends. I love the Legends of Runeterra card game. So I was thinking, and a lot of people have opened this up, because Legends of Runeterra competes with Magic the Gathering as a card game that people want to play. Does this open the door for Wizards to combine with other intellectual properties that they do not own? Like,
it sounds like it, yeah.
Could we be soon seeing settings books for popular video games or TV shows?
I think it could be a sign of what's to come, especially considering how popular D&D and 5e in particular has become over the past few years. You know, everybody's playing it. You're not just a fucking nerd anymore for playing D&D. And I think, you know, there's going to be companies out there that are going to want to capitalize on D&D success, and D&D are going to want to, you know, capitalize on them, these companies, to keep expanding and keep putting their name out there. So you do make a good point. You know, hopefully we will see more tie-ins like this Legends of Runeterra. Like I said, I just hope they stop with the Magic the Gathering as an official April-May release.
Makes sense, because as well, for people who don't play Magic, there's like a massive lore gap that they don't know, whereas some people know it already, and therefore they're ahead. Like, I know Theros because I used to play Magic the Gathering. I knew Eberron because of Magic the Gathering, so I know some people have been finding it difficult.
Look, I just want Spelljammer, okay? Just give me fucking Spelljammer, and I'll shut up.
I want Planescape as well. I would love a Sigil book, Sigil, however you say it. I would love to see some of the old stuff that was in those earlier editions, and for them to come back. And it's actually quite funny that you mentioned this idea of like people coming into the tabletop RPG scene, especially these big companies. Because did you know, and I only found this out because of our friend Jordan posted up the fact that Desperado, the video game, old school video game, tactical like cowboy shooter, outlaw shooter, released its own completely free tabletop RPG to celebrate the release of the game Desperados 3. It's a very tactical cowboy shooter, very rooted in like positioning and holding places up, and it's not a run and gun thing like D&D can become. You have to think about things, and it's very gritty and very much the Wild West. Some people have given it comparisons to the show Deadwood. I don't know if you've ever seen that. The show Deadwood. Some people have been very, very vocal about the fact that Deadwood and this sound amazing, sort of
I
thing.
think I'll have to look at that. That sounds interesting. Cowboys.
Yeah. Actually, I think I'm looking at the Oath of Glory again. I think I got the wrong things.
Oh jeez. All right, I'm not editing that out. It was a long conversation. All right, Addison, you better apologize to everybody listening to this for having to listen to it twice.
I apologize for I genuinely I've just realised I had the old one, the Oath of Heroism, before it changed to the Oath of Glory. Yeah, so I had the old one. My bad. Still pretty good. Like at level 20, you are blessed with otherworldly presence, gaining advantage on all charisma checks. One on each of your turns. When you make a weapon attack and miss, you can cause the attack to hit instead. You just cause it to attack. The hit to hit. Mm-hmm. The attack to hit. And then if you fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to re-roll it.
That's the level 20 capstone.
Pretty.
That sounds kind of
that's it.
Disappointing.
A little bit. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again unless you spend a 5th level spell slot to use it.
Let me open up some other paladin subclasses and let's compare the capstones, shall we? All right. Where should we start? Let's start with Ancients. Mm-hmm. Ancients is probably my favorite one. All right. Ancients, level 20, Elder Champion. You can assume the form of an ancient force of nature, taking on appearance of your choice. Using your action, you undergo a transformation. For 1 minute, you gain the following benefits. You regain 10 hit points at the start of your turn. Whenever you cast a paladin spell that has a casting time of 1 action, you can cast it using your bonus action instead. Enemy creatures within 10 feet of you have disadvantage on saving throws against your paladin spells and channel divinity. I think that one is superior to the Oath of Glory. We'll do one, but we won't go through the whole list.
Yeah, the Oath of Glory is a bonus action.
Oh, it's a bonus action. I missed that bit. I did miss that bit.
As a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. So advantage on all charisma checks. Yeah, you can make an attack hit if you miss.
Very
level 20, it's very rare you miss.
To what you're fighting, though, isn't it? How often are you fighting something that's going to make you do a charisma saving throw, especially at level 20? But I guess, I don't know what monsters are in the book, so maybe there's quite a few monsters in there that will have abilities that make you do charisma saves. Anyway, let's casually gloss over your fuck up and move on to the next point.
My bad. Yeah. So, but even though tabletop RPG is changing, especially with how we play them and stuff like that, I think that one of the things that actually has come out of this current climate is the change that Wizards of the Coast seem to be making personally. Mm-hmm. And me and you have talked about this at quite a length. So they came under some fire in the wake of George Floyd and BLM and the new awareness about race that seems to be filling the public space.
Prior to this, prior to anything to do with George Floyd, Twitter was up in arms because orcs were apparently racist. Then the George Floyd thing happened.
Yeah, and then it gained a lot more traction after, because we talked about it. And then on the 17th of June, they responded with Diversity and Dungeons and Dragons, which is like a statement that they released that outlined like their plan and what they plan to do to address and rectify the issues that the fan base, or certain parts of the fan base, because it's not all the fan base, certain parts of the fan base have seen. Whereas the other part of the fan base see it as a perceived problem, like people are looking for stuff. And I'm being neutral here and putting it both ways. And we get political in private sometimes, and we talk about our views of the world, and we view it differently, which is fine. But what do you think about what's happening? What is the problem that was leveled at Wizards of the Coast door, and what do you think about it? And then we'll have a look at my ideas, and we'll look at the actual statement.
Where do you want me to begin? Do you want me to start with orcs and drow?
Start with orcs and drow, and then we can move into the actual... I'll say what I've got to say, and then we'll move into the actual statement.
Okay. Well, orcs and drow are part of the statement, and it's the first bit in the statement. Shall we just go from there?
The first bullet point. So we're only going to... Because the other bits are all like fluff, we're only going to look at the bullet points, like the actual things that they're doing. Okay? So we present orcs and drow in a new light in our two most recent books, Eberron, Rising from the Last War, and Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. In those books, orcs and drow are just as morally and culturally complex as other people. We will continue that approach in future books, portraying all the peoples of D&D in a relatable way and making it clear that they are as free as humans to decide who they are and what they do.
Now, I have issue with this.
Okay.
Let me preface this by saying, nobody, not a single black person on the planet, wanted this. If you are a black person and you did want this change, let's have a talk, okay? Because I want to know where you're coming from. I wasn't asking for this. I never once in my life thought orcs were racist. I never once thought orcs are a racist representation of black people. All you have to do is go on Google and type in racist US iconography to see that black people have never been portrayed as orcs. Orcs are monsters. They are written to be monsters. They are written specifically to give a good party something evil to go and fight. That is what orcs are. That is their purpose. It didn't start in D&D. It started with Lord of the Rings. Orcs are monsters in the same way that the boogeyman is a monster, in the same way that an aboleth is a monster. Orcs are monsters. It is absolutely crazy that they have to put out a statement about orcs like this. It's absolutely crazy. It's insane. Nobody was comparing orcs to black people until some do-gooder on Twitter decided to do so, and then everybody decided to jump on the bandwagon. And I'm going to say this. You may have an opposite. You may have a different opinion. You may want to challenge me on it. I'm open to talking about it. Okay. The only person that has been comparing orcs to black people was the person that started this, and then everybody else who jumped on the bandwagon afterwards. I am offended. I do not get offended very easily. I am incredibly offended that people have been comparing orcs to black people, because it has not been a thing ever until that initial tweet. It's insane. Now, that said, is there a problem making orcs and drow good? Absolutely not. You know, it's your world, it's your game. You know, you can have good orcs, you could have evil tabaxi, forest gnomes, whatever. Who cares? Yeah. Doesn't matter. When I ran Curse of Strahd, I put a band of good aligned orcs up in the mountains for my players to encounter, and they did, and they had fun. Really doesn't matter. You can portray any race in any alignment you want to. What I'm offended by is that people have been claiming that orcs are compared to black people when they have not been. That offends me, and I find that to be racist. No one was making that connection until everybody started jumping on the bandwagon. I think I've made that as clear as I possibly can.
Yeah. I think that I can see like language similarities, but the fact to make that language similarity, it had to be in the back of your mind in the first place.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, in terms of our imitating life, unfortunately, whether it's a class divide or a racial divide, there is always some sort of downtrodden peoples. There is always some form of other in all types of fiction. And usually those other are actually the heroes, aren't they? When you think about Aladdin, for example, a very harmless Disney story, he is a downtrodden poor boy, and then he is our hero. And I think that actually, as someone who's DM for children and used things like an Orc Quarter ghetto as a learning and teaching experience to show that there are good orcs out there, and there's good half orcs, and there are interracial couples. Like, not every half orc is from a raid and a sexual assault. Some people do choose to be with orcs, like human, elf, whatever. I think that's really important, and I think I work in an area where those attitudes sometimes come out. And actually, I found the opposite to be true. When kids have made orcs, or they've made drow, or they've made changelings, because no one's ever made, like, if you read the flavor text to changelings, there's actually a massive, and this is only because in response to this, I've made this and searched out other things. There's a massive Jewish parallel between changelings. Changelings are literally hunted to be eradicated throughout all the planes, not just in Eberron, like in all the planes. They are hunted by a certain group of people who believe they are evil and horrible. And I could turn around and go, well, that's a Jewish connection. There are other races and other things that could show things like disability. And I think that people going extreme with those, whilst I understand that it might be hurtful, you also remove the opportunity to teach, that use that moment to teach. You remove that moment and that ability to be sensible and show that this isn't okay. If you just say that everybody's fair, even though that's not the, and I know we play D&D to escape the world outside, but like, that's not how things work. It's in every society in human history, there has been a downtrodden peoples, and there has been bullshit science behind it, and there has been this, that, and the other. And it doesn't make me racist to have an orc quarter and go, dude, it's not okay that they live in this shanty town. Like, they're not actually bad. Like, people just perceive them as bad, because also as well, in most of their lore, they come from an evil god, and you've only got to look at history, especially in America. Like, women were burnt for centuries because they were believed to come from or be in collusion with a devil figure.
Let's not forget that stuff like that still happens in certain parts of Africa. That stuff still happens to this very day. You get labeled a witch, you're gonna die.
Yeah. I understand why people are I understand why people want the world to be fair, and I think that there is a good thing here. There is a want to be good here, but I also think that once you become a militant mob, you become what you protest against, and I think
like
that it's beginning to get that way.
You're fighting supposed fascism by using fascist tactics. What I don't understand is, why are we humanizing these fictional races? Why are we doing that? I mean, if you really want to play a human, then that's already in the book. And like, if you go out and get the PHB, you know, you look at all the pictures of humans. It's a very diverse set of pictures of humans in there. people are acting like everything else is tangentially human. Like orcs are descendants of. I mean, why are we humanizing monsters?
I think it's because of the fact that they became a playable race, and then there's the half.
Yeah, I highly doubt we would be having this conversation if orcs weren't a playable race or drow weren't a playable race. We would not be having this conversation.
I think the drow confuses me, because I've always thought that the drow were quite interesting, because they have a matriarchal society. Like, they have a matriarchal society because of love.
They worship a spider.
Yeah, goddess. Like, she's their primary.
Goddess, yes.
I feel as though I understand what people are trying to do. We're trying to get rid of bigotry, but is there a point where the Inquisition starts, where we start becoming the Inquisitors, and we start looking for the devil in everything, sort of thing?
I mean, we've established that certain people are, whether consciously or subconsciously, they're making the connection in their own minds that orcs are black people. I don't understand the issue with drow. Is it because they have, you know,
I think it's
gray,
the skin,
black skin,
and the fact that they're.
And when I say black, we're not saying brown. We're not saying dark brown. We're saying like
black,
pitch
gray,
black colored skin. Yeah, it's a whole different thing. They do you watch Community?
Yes.
Yeah, they have removed the Dungeons and Dragons episode where Chang cosplays as a drow because they're playing D&D and he happens to be playing a drow. That episode has been removed from all streaming services that Netflix is on. That Community is on, especially Netflix. I was literally binging Community the past couple of weeks, and I got to like a certain point towards the end of season 2, and I was thinking, hang on a second, have I missed the best episode of this entire series, the D&D episode. So I went back through my Netflix and checked all the episode titles and read all the synopsis for each episode. It wasn't fucking there. So I googled it. Where the fuck is the D&D episode of Community? And lo and behold, it's been removed. Now, what you have to understand is this is a show where, firstly, the entire cast is diverse as fuck. It's diverse as fuck. You got 2 black people on there. You have a Muslim in there. You have 3 women, 4 dudes. You've got Chang. He's Chinese. You've got gay people on the show. You've got something. For every category on that show. So just by virtue of that, it's already a very diverse show. Then you have the character Pierce Hawthorne, who is the old white man, and he's racist in virtually every fucking episode. So if you are truly taking out the D&D episode in a bid to fight racism, then what you would need to do is remove every single episode where Pierce Hawthorne is being racist. Otherwise, it's just virtue signaling, and it's gross and disgusting. And it's literally the best episode of the show.
And Chevy Chase is a problematic figure in himself, isn't he?
Chevy Chase, he was removed from the show. I think he's only in it up until season 4, season 5. He was removed from the show for using racial slurs on set. So it's okay to keep his character's racist remarks in the show. A show about a diverse group of people. It's okay to keep that in. But for some reason, cosplay is where we draw the line. That doesn't make sense to me. That does not sit right with me. Nobody was asking for it. All this stuff with Black Lives Matter and George Floyd was to protest police brutality. And I think we've lost sight of that. And I think I want to leave that there for now, because I think we're getting a little bit off topic. Yeah. Let's carry on with this diversity.
With the second thing is the fact that they want to use the reprint time, which is the errata statements that you mentioned earlier, and they want to use they want to change text that was racially insensitive against the Yuan-Ti and the Vistani peoples. These reprints have.
I'm not familiar with Tomb of Annihilation, but I am quite familiar with Curse of Strahd.
Tomb of Annihilation is basically the Yuan-Ti are the bad guys, and people are saying that they are an allegory for Asian people in general.
Okay, how?
Because of I'm guessing that because of the fact that they have somewhat slanted or more oval shaped eyes, and the slitted eyes, and they live in the jungles and stuff like that are reminiscent of, say, Central America and the Viet Cong and stuff like that people feel as though.
Now, I would accept that if there was only, for example, there are humans in the game, but they're only black or they're only white, and there's no Asian race of humans. And the Yuan-Ti were those. But the fact that D&D is the fact that D&D is diverse in its artwork and representations of humans, I reject that entirely. I think people are looking for things to be angry about.
And this is what I said about the Inquisition, isn't it?
How many other fucking monsters live in jungles? They're monsters. They live in jungles. What big difference does it make? And in regards to Curse of Strahd and the Vistani, the thing is with Curse of Strahd, in Barovia itself, where it's set, everything there is dark and miserable and the worst version of itself. The typical townsfolk, these are people that are addicted not just to booze, these are people that are addicted to essentially drugs. I won't go into more detail for fear of spoilers, but these are people that are also essentially drug addicts who literally sell their children for these drugs, and that's just a regular commoner, a regular denizen of Barovia. The people are they're not very smart, they're very low skilled, they're obviously not wealthy, but then you have the Vistani, And if you compare a Vistani to a regular Barovian, the Vistani, there's several classes above the regular human. They are well-off tradespeople. They can travel. They clearly have some wealth, whereas the regular commoner doesn't. There are a couple who are portrayed as drunks and abusers, but that's just a couple. However, you then have another camp of Vistani that's portrayed as, very similar to the gypsy folk from Hunchback of Notre Dame. They're fun-loving people.
Yeah.
Yeah, Romani. Yeah, they're a very fun-loving, caring people. So I don't think the criticism of that holds any weight either.
Makes sense.
In some aspects, they're portrayed as bad. In some, they're portrayed as good. But what you have to realize is the context of the setting. Everything is bad in the setting, and these people don't have it as bad. So how are they being persecuted? How are they being misrepresented? In my view, they're the best people in Barovia.
It's that idea of the stereotype, isn't it? And the stereotype being a racial tool to create a paradigm where they have negative traits, much like the for example, the gollywog and stuff like that. Like,
but they've not been gollywogged. They haven't gollywogged the Vistani. I haven't done that with them.
Because another part of the statement that I wanted to go to was the character Esmeralda, who is a Vistani.
Yes, I remember seeing this discussion on Twitter.
When because she's not, so it spoiled it a little bit for me, but
yeah, spoiler alert.
So spoiler alert: Esmeralda is disabled. She has a prosthetic leg. Am I correct in that? She has a prosthetic leg. Now, here's where my thing comes in, where I'm a bit like, when identity politics instead of becoming equalizers, becomes how can I put it?
Ammunition.
Not even that. When it goes from equalization to definition, so like it's almost like we are now defining characters by things that they have. So for example, if I was a character in D&D, according to this new paradigm, as someone who is neurodivergent, I have multiple learning disabilities and autism, that I feel as if that would kind of define me. I am autistic and that's all I will ever be. And Esmeralda, they say that she hides it, but in Barovia, that makes sense, because to show any form of weakness in Barovia is a disadvantage. And actually, the fact that she is this like kick-ass monster hunter and only has one actual like working leg. So if she can kick ass like she does
with only one fucking leg, that's pretty cool. Fucking badass.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing as when you meet people in real life. You might not realize someone has a prosthetic leg. You might not realize.
We don't need to see everybody's disability.
And like, you might not know someone who's gay.
Things that we've been taught recently. Yeah, it's like one of the things that we keep being told is like, not all disabilities are visible, and they don't need to be.
No.
Why does everybody's disability need to be? And everybody's going to have a different feeling towards their disability. You know, I remember working with this one guy in a factory that used to make Hoovers. I was a contractor there, and he only had one arm. He was changing tools on these huge fucking 10,000 pound machines, 10,000 pounds in terms of weight, on his own with one fucking arm. He was a fucking badass. You know, that was visible. I could see that. And then you see other people. You know, I've worked with a guy that only had one foot. Wouldn't have known unless he told me. It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And then I think another aspect is, you know, different people are going to feel very differently about their disabilities. Some people are going to want to hide them. And that's okay if they want to do that. That's fine if they want to do that. Some people are going to keep them out on show and visible. And that's fine if they want to do that as well. You know, this isn't a one box fits all every type of thing. You know, for me personally, you know, when people put me in the BAME box, it's like, okay, why are you putting me in this box? I don't know all of these people. We don't all think the same thing. We're not all from the same background. We don't all have the same political leanings. Why are you putting me in this box with all of these other people, where the only thing that's the same between us is that we're not white. You know,
Yeah.
it's a very similar thing that
My thing is as well is like
people are different.
yeah, people are different, and I think like it takes away the thing of knowing and finding out and like getting to dive deeper. If she's there knocking on her leg to show that it's fake, like you don't have that great reveal and this great layer of depth to her character that is, oh shit, she's been doing all this, like, and she doesn't care that she's disabled. Like
I think she does care. That's the issue that people have with it.
Yeah.
It explicitly shows that she tries to hide her disability. But, big but, she's a fucking monster hunter. She's an adventurer. You know, if anybody finds out she's only got one leg, what the fuck do you think her enemies are going to do?
And that's what I was saying at the beginning, isn't it?
Leg.
Like,
they're going to go for that one fucking leg.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Barovia is an... I've not even played a lot of it, and I know that Barovia is a fucking unforgiving place. And people are willing to like lie and cheat and manipulate and do whatever they can to people who are trying to help them. So imagine if your enemies found that out. And it's just that definition. Like, we're now defining people by these things, by these boxes. I am now, if I'm a D&D character, if I ever get made into a D&D NPC, I'm the autistic D&D NPC. Like, and nobody knows I'm autistic until I tell them, or they start seeing me do weird things. And I quite like that because of the fact that they don't. Sometimes when people find out, they do speak to me like I'm stupid, and it's not their fault. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of lack of education on that. So, but it's gone from equalization to definition, and I am worried about that because now we've got in the rest of the statement we've got things like sensitivity readers. They're introducing a round of the editorial process called sensitivity reading. They are, and I also feel like because of this, they've said that later this year we will release a product not yet announced that offers a way for players to customize their character's origin, including the option to change the ability scores that come from being an elf, a dwarf, or any of the other playable races. So what's the point of player races if you can just mess with them?
So not only are we changing the physical stats, the things that make a cat different to a dog. Not only are we changing those, but we are essentially making them all humans.
Yeah, and like
we're making them all humans.
And like,
there's no point playing another race at this point.
Even in humanity itself, real life humanity, based on your country of origin, there are things that you were adapted to that other people are not. Right? Black skin itself is because of heat and that idea of protecting the skin, isn't it? Like melatonin.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Asia is known for, because it's volcanic and prone to earthquakes. People actually didn't grow tall because they were like, and they didn't build tall for a long time because of the fact that they didn't need that for a long time. Like, there's the Egyptians, like it just, you're taking a mechanic out.
You've got black people. Black people are more predisposed to getting diabetes. Asian people are more predisposed to being lactose intolerant. People are different. Why are we ignoring all of this stuff? Why are we trying to make everything the same?
And then the last thing, because we've beaten this to death about the fact that we're like, like I've said, I understand why people want to get rid of racism, bigotry, stuff like that. But again, I'm getting worried.
This isn't the way to do it. It's not the way.
I'm getting worried that we're seeing the devil in everything, like in everything. Like, if there was literally like Wizards, and like not all of Wizards have done this, but there are things that have happened at Wizards that are genuinely terrible. In terms of if you follow like the industry news and the comic industry and stuff like that, there are things that are genuinely terrible in terms of sexism, stuff like that. And I feel as if, because even Tolkien came under wraps, like Tolkien's orcs are a thinly veiled thing of Chinese industrialism, and it's like, well, No, it's not, because we all know that Tolkien and C.S. Lewis had a bet to rewrite sections of the Bible as novels. Like, so C.S. Lewis wrote the New Testament as the Chronicles of Narnia, and actually, if you think about it, the Old Testament is Lord of the Rings. The Exodus and the destruction of like Paradise Lost element to it. So now the last thing on this statement, and I know you've got
it's like just before you move on, it's like, if you look for something and you really want to find it, you will find it.
Yeah. And last on this diversity statement, which is worrying, I always get worried about this thing, and me and my wife talk about this a lot. We're practically seeking new diverse talent to join our staff and our pool of freelance writers and artists. So not tenured writers and artists, not people with permanent positions, freelance. I just want to bring that up because the freelance industry, especially in America, is unforgiving in general, not just in terms of Wizards of the Coast, but journalism, video game design, stuff like that. Teaching, there's freelance teaching in America, which is absurd. We've brought in contributors who reflect the beautiful diversity of the D&D community to work on books coming out in 2021. We're going to invest even more in this approach and add a broad range of new voices to join the chorus of D&D storytelling. Now, this might be just me, and you can shout at me if you want, but
I think I know what you're going to say.
All I keep seeing is tokens, like, and that is not okay. Like, if you're going to put people in a position because of their race, that's not good. But if you're going to put them there because of their talent and they happen to be that, then that's fine. You get what I mean, don't you? Like, if you are a talented black writer,
I absolutely agree with you.
If you're a talented black writer, you're a talented writer, and this is the thing: equality and equity do not. And I say this about the negative as well. When everybody's like, "Well, black boys are more likely to stab people," I'm like, "Well, what difference does it make that they're black? Surely it's just boys are likely to stab people." If you are a good writer, you're a good writer, regardless of race. And that there are archaic hiring processes out there that put it so that if you have a somewhat African or Indian sounding or Middle Eastern sounding name, your CV magically goes to the bottom of the pile. But that's because people are shitty. That's not well, it is an industry thing, but you get what I mean. Like, people are shit. Like, you
yeah, I think what you're trying to say is, your color and your background shouldn't really be part of the hiring process.
No.
I have great issue with things like this, because if I knew that any of the opportunities I've had in my life, and I've had quite a few, if I knew that I was giving any of those things because of the color of my skin, it would probably make me feel sick. I like to know, and fair play if you have a different opinion on this, talk to us about it. I like to know that I earned this job on my own merit, and I'm confident that up to this point, that is exactly what I've done. But if somebody's going to hand me something because of the color of my skin, which I have no control over, that does not sit right for me.
Yeah,
it really doesn't.
And
I don't think companies should be doing this. What I would prefer to see is colorblind and probably even name blind hiring practices. Submit a CV. Don't ask for any of that stupid monitoring information, which I never put on there anyway. Nobody needs to know my background. Take off the name, take off the background, just skills, experience, etc., etc. That's all that needs to be on there.
Yeah,
that's all that needs to be on there.
Because
and then hire the best person for the job. Nobody can complain with that. Hire the best person for the job. Not the blackest person for the job, not the whitest person for the job, not the Asianist person for the job. Just hire the person who has the skills, experience, and evidence that they are the best person for this job. Just do that.
Because even in my profession, I am a privileged white young man, and in my job, if I
have issue with the word privilege, because it implies there's no privileged people of color. of which there fucking are. There are privileged people of every single color.
But I'm apparently privileged. But the fact that I am dyslexic, dyspraxic, and I teach English to a secondary level and could teach it to an almost degree level if I wanted to.
See, you're basically nothing. Esmeralda.
Yeah. Am I like, if somebody was to turn around to me tomorrow and go, yeah, the only reason you've still got a job here, by the way, is because you're a bit like iffy on the old ed. Like, I'd be upset. Like, I'd be like, oh, so you only keep me around because I'm special? Like I'm special needs? Like, that's not okay. And I think, whilst I do think that diversity is something that we need to strive towards in many different aspects, I also think that I just don't. The minute you start going, we need to hire more black people. People like Martin Luther King, people like Malcolm X, Mahatma Gandhi, even all these people who have fought for the civil liberties of people who are oppressed, turn in their graves, because you're now not asking for equality and fairness. You're asking for almost this weird sense of superiority, like, and it worries me, because like. And yeah, I work in an area where I do teach things like there is racism out there, and there is, like, but I also try and teach kids that you judge people by the contents of their character rather than their outward appearance. Because some of the poorest kids in the world are going to be the nicest. Aladdin is a thing of that, like a trying to teach that. There's thousands of stories where we try and teach that, and for some reason we're kind of burning them at the stake.
I think just to put a full stop on this point before we move on to the next section, I thought we were striving for a world where race doesn't matter, but right now it feels like it's the most important thing.
Definitely. So that got hard, dark, heavy, all that jazz. And I want to go back to how our podcast should be, which is fun, chill, relaxed. And so I want to ask you, Leon.
Oh, before you ask me that question, if anybody's listening and you disagree with anything you say, come talk to us. Addison, what are the social media thingies?
Definitely. Like, so they are at Podomanythings for Twitter, at the Podomanythings on Instagram, the Podomanythings on Facebook, Podbean in the comments down below. Please talk to us, because I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on the subject. I'm reading up on it. I'm watching lots of videos by an artist called Akala to like try and gain some understanding. Like, I'm not above being educated. I'm not one of those Twitter people. I don't know. Me and you have come across a couple of them, haven't we, Leon? Those Twitter people who will not be.
Yeah.
Who will not.
It's all opinion at the end of the day. We're not experts on this. Our opinion might not be the best take. It might not be the worst take. Your opinion might not be the best take, and it might not be the worst take. Let's discuss it. That's what this whole thing is about. Having a discussion, isn't it?
Yeah. So, let's get light.
Anyway, on to some better
topics. Let's go light, and let's say, get to a lighter note. Let's be happy. Let's pull ourselves out of the mud, and let's go back to normality and return to the deck of many questions. So this is the part of the podcast where we break out a table of user submitted questions. We roll a dice to determine the question, then roll a dice to see who has to answer that question, and put them on the spot and see their take. So, Leon, have you got the dice?
Yes. Which dice do I need?
You need a D4 for us two. With
D4,
odds and evens. Do you want to be odds or evens?
I'll be odd.
And then we need we've got 41 questions, so I would say a percentile maybe, or 2 d20s.
I'll roll the d4 for the tens, and then a d10 for the unit.
Yeah, good. Sounds good. All right, excellent. So let's roll for the question first. Come on, big money, no whammies.
That's even. It's a 4.
So that's me to answer. Or is we?
That's you.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, I said odd. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's you. You're answering the question.
okay. God damn, I always answer.
And then the question itself is, how many questions do we have?
41.
41. So that's going to be question 17.
Question 17 is submitted by Paige. As a DM,
My best friend.
how much time do you spend on D&D outside of games? This is in terms of prep, writing, research, watching D&D shows, etc. Okay, so in terms of watching D&D shows weekly, I used to spend, before it got suspended because of the world ending, about 4 hours watching shows, because I used to watch Critical Role every week with my wife. Beautiful times. They're coming back with a socially distanced set, so I'm happy that they are coming back. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, they're no longer live as well, are they?
No, they're pre-recorded, but
Which is fine.
Which is fine, yeah.
It's unprecedented times.
Yeah.
And I don't think they ever needed to be live anyway. How many people actually watch it live? It's no big
It-
deal.
quite. I've tried to do it once because it's really early in the morning for us, and it was actually like pretty big. In terms of like research, I don't actually do that much until it like comes to me. Like I'll have like I'll be like, I'll do that thing where you're laying in bed, eyes closed, and then you shut your eyes, bolt open, and you're like, I don't know how that works, or something like that will come to my mind, and until, because again, that autistic tendency of like fixating and like I need to know, like I'll sort that out then. Prep about an hour to 2 hours. I genuinely believe that if your prep exceeds how long you're going to play at any point, you're doing it wrong. Yeah. So I try and make it half the amount of time. So I play for 4 hours. The max I'll go to is 2 hours prep, and that's it.
Like, still too much.
Still too much, yeah.
In my opinion.
I think the most I've ever prepped is an hour, because I was doing something new recently, and that was I was trying to use dungeons, because I actually realised that there was not enough dungeons in my Dungeons and Dragons. Like I had dragons like all the time, but I never had dungeons. So I made a dungeon, added some effects, like there was steam so they couldn't see, and dark vision didn't help. If they used fire weapons, because it was on a fire elemental plane ley line, so for example if they had a firebrand weapon, it exploded when it ignited.
Okay.
Because the elemental energy, they had to sneak out. It was good, it was fun. So that's the amount I've prepped. So all in all, I'd say like weekly, I'd say 5 hours tops if Critical Role's on. If I'm talking to my friends about D&D or doing the podcast like today, a bit more now. So I think in a week, max 10 hours now.
Yeah.
Because of the podcast and researching for the podcast and looking at these things, which I believe are important.
It's an all-encompassing hobby, isn't it?
Yeah, it does, and
very
like
quickly takes over your life.
Yeah, me and my wife. Obviously, I found D&D at a very particular time in our life that was quite trying for my lovely wife, and Ginny didn't understand it at points. But then when I finally got her to play, which was almost a disaster, because the first time she played was like disastrous. The DM was so bad that she almost was like, I don't want to do this. And then when I got her to play properly, I say properly in loose connotations, but when I got to play with a decent DM, it was a lot better. And now she loves it, and she thinks about it, and she thinks of like tactics and stuff, and she asked me questions, and like we've said during this like diversity statement thing, my wife has had opinions, which I thought would never happen, but she's had opinions, and she's welcomed me to her TED Talk multiple times. Yeah, but that is it.
I can just picture her. I know she's in the background. She's probably just giving you daggers right in the back of the head right now.
She's left. She's decided she's left to go see her parents for a socially distant catch up whilst I do this. But yeah,
got it.
That's it. I'm afraid I'm not one of these people who have sold my soul to it, because I teach as well, so I can only sell myself to one thing at a time, and apparently it's my job at the moment. But yeah,
okay,
that's everything. So
all right, my turn.
Yeah,
my turn.
have
Hang
a go.
on.
Leon.
All right, so we have question 12.
Question 12. Can you name one time you took full advantage of GM screen? You took full advantage of your GM screen. So this is something like maybe you cheated, maybe you used the information on the back to
Oh yeah, of course.
something. Like,
I use the GM screen all the time. I have the reincarnated one.
me too. The best one by far.
I also have the Baldur's Gate one, Descended to Avernus, but the reincarnated one is much more useful. Yeah, I use it all the time. It's got things on there. It's got travel speed. It's got size categories, and this is just off the top of my head, and I know because I use it often. It's got like hit points and armor classes for things like doors. Yeah, the DM screen's great. Have I used it to abuse my power in terms of dice rolling? Yes, 100%. Of course I do. Sometimes, you plan out this epic fight and you think, yeah, it's going to be a really hard fight. Everybody's going to be dying. And sometimes, it turns out, actually, you players are killing these monsters incredibly easy. So yeah, I'll fudge a few dice rolls in here just to add a little bit of tension to the game. Sometimes I will just roll a dice. The players are traveling through a forest. One sec. Okay, carry on. That kind of thing. Yeah. DM screen is great.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like, there are some times when I've been merciful and I've cheated and said that I've missed when I haven't. I know some people are like, never do that. I'm like, but there's a point. I think the biggest time was like one time when someone was dying, I think. And I was like, do I want to kill them? We're not that far into the sessions. Probably not. I've been extremely lucky so far. Maybe time to balance the scales myself. Because I had been like, I like critted this poor person like 4 times in a row. And I was like, it just looked like I was cheating. So I and I wasn't. And I was like, So I then decided to handicap myself. So yeah.
That's fair. I think it's all about, because D&D used to be just like a dungeon crawl game.
Meat grinder.
With 5e and with meat grinder kind of thing. But with 5e, with Critical Role, it's become much more of a group storytelling device with rules and dice. And if you have a group that's heavy into roleplay, heavy into story, sometimes you just want to do those things that either build tension or stop people from dying 20 minutes into the game. And you play by ear with the party. Some parties, especially the more inexperienced ones, they won't notice. But the more experienced the party gets, they'll be more open to just letting you go ham with the crazy monsters that you're throwing at them. Case by case basis, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right then.
So that's that's the deck of many questions.
Deck of many questions. If you'd like to submit a question, get in touch on our socials, and we will make sure it's in there for the next episode. Again, we've talked about some challenging things today. If you want to talk to us about it, challenge us, educate us, whatever you believe is appropriate, let us know. And that brings an end to this episode. If you've enjoyed it, have some feedback. Leon, let the people all know where they can go again. One last time. Okay,
Twitter is at PodOManyThings. You can get us on Instagram at ThePodOManyThings. Facebook is also ThePodOManyThings. We really need to buy the F.
Yeah.
We really need to purchase the F. If you are listening to Podbean, you probably know where we are already. But if you don't want to watch us on YouTube anymore and want to try the podcast itself, it is The Pod of Many Things. It's the only place where we can afford the F because it was free.
But yeah, I've been your friendly Furbolg Wizard Addison. We've been chatting now. We've been chatting now with my favourite half-orc bard, Leon.
Yep. And we'll see you next time. Hopefully next week.
Next week, yeah. Arrivederci.
Ta-ta.